Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. Folks, we're on Fitness Friday. It is always the best day of the week. Gotta love it. And folks, as we continue this series here on confidence, and in particular, the sub-theme of having the confidence to make the tough decisions. And so what I'm actually going to do, I took what was going to be one episode and actually split it off into two. So next week I'm going to kind of finish the sub-theme of having the confidence to make tough decisions. We're going to look very specifically at some fitness examples, some fitness entity examples here, and talk more about that next week. And then after that, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 more episodes talking about more general confidence topics. But wanted to kick off today by highlighting a couple of actually collateral materials. You know, there's always some marketing flowing through these themes, marketing and sales promotions as we go along, because I always like to point out things, examples within and of course outside the fitness industry, just to show you there's a whole lot of tough decisions being made. Because again, we think of the SWOT analysis. I don't have my clipboard here. When we think about the threat that the coronavirus pandemic is really placed on various entities, various business, for-profits, nonprofits. And so I actually got a couple of things in the mail here last week and wanted to show you these. And the first of which, again, not promoting these businesses, companies, or anything. As always, these are just merely examples, really good examples. And so I got this postcard in the mail from Valvoline. And so I've had oil changes there before, obviously. And so what they're doing here is they're trying to get me back. So, and they've sweetened the deal. And I told you, when I highlighted that example, I think it was back in June when I mentioned that, early June, with the Amazon Music, and how they sweetened up their deal because they had been after me via mail, via email, via pop-ups when I would open up the app before I worked out. And so they were after me for a very long time. And so finally they gave me 4 months free, and I tried it and I absolutely love it. So that trial will be turning into a permanent, I will be a permanent customer of that. And so this is an example here where they have sweetened up their deal to get me back. And so what they've done here is just, $20 off any Valvoline full service oil change. But you can see here in the wording, and I'm sure it's not, as clear as I'd like it, but it says, come back, save big, any Valvoline full service oil change, $20 off. At the bottom, service you can see, expert you can trust. And so once again, sales promotion, trying to get me to take action. Anytime we get these type of things in the mail, particularly direct mail, because direct mail historically has a certainly far lower response rate. And so this is an example here where we've got a time limited offer with me being able to get $20 off their full service oil change. And what happened? It reminded me, you know what? I need to get my oil change. So I've actually been hanging on to this to share this example, because I will be taking it to get my oil change. But again, making the tough decisions. Many times, and particularly around marketing activities, marketing efforts, marketing budgets, some tough decisions have been made just across various entities, like I said before. So in some examples, marketing budgets have been cut because revenues and sales have been down as a result of the coronavirus pandemic in various entities. But you've also got some that have shifted their spending based on looking at performing ROI, return on analysis, return on investment analyses, to say, okay, what has worked for us in the past? What's working now? Have we been allotting and allocating a certain amount of money, and it's really been, when we look at the return on investment analysis, it's not been as powerful as we wanted it to be? Okay, let's shift this around. Let's pivot and let's reevaluate where we're allocating our funds regarding our marketing spend and marketing budget. And then certainly you have those that have just said, you know what? We have an opportunity in this pandemic situation, and we want to increase our marketing budget. We want to increase spending. We want to do this and we want to do that. We want to try new things. Or in this particular instance, we want to have a sweeter deal that we've obviously offered historically, because I want to say the most generous of these that I've gotten in the past have been like $15 a month, but they weren't, the wording wasn't come back. It was just a general offer that I'm sure they may have mailed to everyone. I can't confirm that obviously, but this one is specifically, we want you to come back, and certainly I will come back. So the effectiveness of that piece can certainly be pointed out with that example. And the next, Better Health Market and Cafe right here in Novi. And so they have given me, and so as I mentioned before, with direct mail having historically very low response rates, just in general, there are obviously always going to be outliers and examples where that's not the case, but generally speaking, direct mail, very, very, very low response rates. But when you have entities like this, and I've never gotten one this big, certainly from Better Health, they decided to, once again, as I was alluding to, made some changes regarding their marketing, their advertising, direct mail spend, and they have this big direct mail piece. And so we think about some of the challenges of direct mail, where some people consider it junk mail. I read through all of my mail, and because again, I'm always looking for examples and things like that. But this is an example where they said, we got to do things differently. Okay, historically, direct mail has low response rates. They are obviously competing with some of the major chains like Kroger, Meijer, just depending on where you are in the country. Aldi, get ads from those places on a weekly basis, typically, but not always. And so they have this very large piece, very attention-getting. And ironically, the only one day last week, the only mail that I got was this piece. And so you can see here, very large, very attention-getting, back to school. But this was a tough decision they had to make. We are going to have to do things differently, and it is going to cost us more. Because again, if you're sending a much smaller little postcard, I've gotten one about this size historically from some Better Health Market here. But they went big. They went big. They went attention getting in terms of what they were trying to do with their execution, and they made it happen. And on the back, what do they have here? Free pickup for delivery, which we know has become standard for a lot of these places with this pandemic. And so with a sales promotion, a promotional offer, $5 off with $25 minimum purchase. Time limited. And so it actually expired last week, August 31st. So they were trying to get action very soon. So free curbside pickup, free same day delivery, free next day shipping. So yeah, all of those type of things that the changes that they've made have been more expensive. They've certainly cost them in terms of expenses. And so these are some examples of tough decisions that have been made. I wanted to kick off this particular episode with those, but it's very tough decisions are being made, certainly outside of the fitness industry, inside of the fitness industry. And I want to shift gears here. We talk about some of the tough decisions that have been made. And this one's going to be about people. Now, I'm going to have an HR episode later in the fall here. I'm going to have a full series on that. It's been a long time since I've talked about HR. And so, but wanted to just highlight something. We think about tough decisions. And my approach isn't to be always holistic, just always. You never know what you're going to see here on Fitness Friday. We talk about fitness trends 1 minute, and then I could be talking about how to avoid getting roped into a pyramid or a multi-level marketing scheme. It's just you get it all here on Fitness Friday, and so I'm always glad to bring you a holistic approach to getting information and empowering you to be successful and to live your best life, whatever that means for you. And certainly I've got some examples of this. And so we talk about some very tough decisions being made. And so in light of this pandemic, it has probably just been amplified more, but research has shown historically that people will often reevaluate their lives, reevaluate priorities, reevaluate their career path, make these major, reevaluate relationships during times of hardship, struggle, crisis. And so that's always happened. But the pandemic is obviously, once in a 100-year event. And so a lot of people have been evaluating, and it's just been highly publicized, various aspects of their lives. And am I happy? Is this working? I want to do this, and just realizing how precious life is. Life has always been precious in terms of how we spend our time, our priorities, and realizing that, life is not promised to us. Tomorrow is not promised to us. And so are we living our best lives now? Are we waking up with zest and zeal and just on fire and excited for life and excited for what we're doing and excited about our relationships? And so a lot of people have made changes. And now I've read a number of articles over the last 18 months with people making major life changes. And so, and they've been highlighting it within the framework of the pandemic, how the pandemic has forced people to reevaluate their lives and take stock of decisions that they need to make or should have made in the past and this and that. And so what I want to talk here, you may have heard something or quite a bit about this lately, and it's regarding what's been termed, quote unquote, the great resignation. And so a lot of people across a lot of industries have been resigning in record numbers. There's just, the job market is just a very challenging time. It has been for a while now. But so a number of people have been profiled across the country, certainly across the world, to just say, many people have been asking themselves, what am I doing with my life? Do I do in the realm of employment? We're going to look at today. Is this what I want to be doing? Am I just been working here to pay the bills? Do I like this? Is this working for me? Does this position align up with my values and priorities in life and the difference that I want to make? If that's the case, there's just been a lot of people making major life decisions and changes regarding employment. It's a very tough job market right now. And so there are a lot of tough decisions that are being made, certainly by people and individuals that have made these career changes, but also certainly employers. So we're going to look kind of at both here. I wanted to start out with an example that I got in the mail here. And I've written, taken different notes and things like that on it when I was doing some research, some follow-up research on it. But I got a message, or this letter here from St. Joe's Medical Group, based here in Livonia. And so I'll just read it to you. I have received 3 or 4 of these from physicians that I've seen in the past. And so this one was actually announcing a departure, but the other 3 or 4 were mentioning retirements. So, doctors or physicians and dentists and people that I've seen in the past, sometimes even years ago, but I was still on their mailing list. But a lot of retirements happening. And so this one was dated August 10th. And so I'm just going to read the very first paragraph. I highlighted here, in the interest of time. And so it says, "Dear patient, the purpose of our letter is to notify you that Dr. Stephen Karaginas is leaving St. Joe's sports medicine practice at the end of August to pursue a new opportunity. We thank Dr. Karaginas for his commitment to the sports medicine program and the services that he brought to our young athletes." And so I have been a patient of Dr. Karaginas. I think very highly of him. And when I received this, he was my medical in terms of my medical needs are taken care of at primarily Michigan medicine. And so prior to that, I saw Dr. Karaginas, and he's actually one that I decided, I'm not going to, with all due respect, I'm going to keep him in terms of my sports medicine. And he does a wonderful job in terms of spinal alignment. And so he's just been wonderful for me in that regard. He's worked with, professional dancers and professional athletes. He just has a wonderful, wonderful background. And so when I read this letter, I was like, oh no. But fortunately, it wasn't a retirement. And so just based on my background in medical sales, I just knew the politics and how a lot of things like that work, and how they're not going to, this particular group that he was with is not going to tell you where he's going because they're concerned about patient retention and people bolting. So I know not just with this group, it happens. That's pretty much standard procedure. They want to hang on to the patients, and they're telling they're telling us about this new person they brought on and the other person that was there. But I knew, how to navigate the situation, and I did follow up and did some little research. Relentless researcher Rachelle actually found out where he's going, where his next practice is, and I'm happy to report that I will be seeing him on Wednesday, September 15th at 8:30 a.m. But I found him. He's actually going to be right here in Novi, joined a smaller private group. But that was a very, very tough decision that he and other physicians have made, whether it's retirement, whether it's changing, and he's a very big loss for that group. And I've seen this when I worked in medical sales, where you have these high-profile people that would leave and go in a different, join a different hospital system or medical group. And so he's just a very big loss for that program. But I'm fortunate that this had a very happy ending, where I will continue to be his patient. But he is just a wonderful, wonderful physician. And so I'm happy to, support him in that new decision, but also remain a patient of his. But I know a very tough decision, because when you are the director like that within a hospital or medical group, medical system, There's a lot kind of, for lack of a better term, there's a lot riding on you. You're responsible for a lot. A lot of patients know you, like you, and support you. And he does a wonderful job, but very, very big decision. He's a part of that. And we've all made that decision where we've changed jobs, changed careers, walked away, decided to do something different, and a whole lot of that is going on. And so I wanted to move along here and highlight another example. And we've seen and we've heard and we've read about, and we've certainly seen these examples of collective unhappiness and discontentment in the workplace that have been revealed during this pandemic. And so if I were to reprise, once again, Debbie Downer, and I like to highlight her sometimes because just that character, that old character on Saturday Night Live, is just the antithesis of my personality. So it's just kind of funny in terms of her execution and that, and versus how I am, always positive, happy, bubbly, believing the best. But like I said it last week, some of what she said was true. And of course, her timing and delivery, and we all know people like that. And that's why the character, I think, was so beloved, where there's just people that are just always negative, or they pick the worst timing to kind of bring in or inject the negativity into a conversation. And so this particular example here, got it loaded up here on my iPad. So Debbie Downer would say, before I begin, if I were to reprise her, so September 2021, with this job market situation, and then she would, I'm sure, allude to the fact that there seems to be a collective unhappiness in the marketplace. In fact, the 1980s hit by Twisted Sister called "We're Not Gonna Take It Anymore" is really making a comeback in terms of the workplace. Da, da. Remember how she used to do that after she'd make her comment? So this first example, and it's in all seriousness, back to all seriousness here moving forward in this episode. The title of this is "We All Quit. Burger King Staff Leaves Note to Management on Store Sign." So this article was on NBCnews.com. So I've had this on my iPad saved for a while, July 13th this year, and it was published by Haley Vaughn and Rima Abdelkader. And so it goes on to state, a Burger King sign has gone viral after employees of one of the chain's restaurants left a notice to management that they were all quitting, according to Today Digital. Rachel Flores began working at a location in Lincoln, Nebraska in August and was promoted to general manager just a few months later after the departure of a previous manager. Flores has worked in restaurants before, including other Burger Kings, and she was familiar with the environment, but she was unprepared for the behavior she experienced from upper management. She told Today, "We all quit. Sorry for the inconvenience," read the message posted on the sign outside the restaurant after Flores and at least 6 other employees decided to put in their 2 weeks notice. Flores said she experienced months of issues, including short staffing, managerial turnover, and hectic work conditions. We had just got really tired of upper management and them not coming to help and not caring about the employees, Flores told Today. As I became general manager, it got more crazy. I had multiple different bosses. Flores and several other employees put in their 2 weeks notice to management at the end of June, she said. Flores alleges that on several occasions, she would go in to work a shift that was meant for 5 to 7 people to only find 2 or 3 working, Today reported. She said there were many days when work conditions were unsafe for employees who were left to work in dangerously hot temperatures without air conditioning. In the beginning of the summer, when it was extremely hot, it would be extremely hot in the kitchen because the AC wasn't working and temperatures were reaching the mid-90s most days, Flores said. It was causing a lot of issues with employees. They were getting dehydrated. That took 3 or 4 weeks to get fixed. One of the days I was extremely delirious. I was very dehydrated. Flores said that when she told her direct boss and other upper managers about her experience, she was accused of making excuses and being dishonest. And she received comments like, "You're being a baby," Today reported. Several employees assisted in posting the message, but it was Flores who was ultimately fired for the viral note just days before she had planned to leave, Today reported. It is unclear whether any other employees were fired. A spokesperson for Burger King said that they were aware of the situation. The work experience described at this location is not in line with our brand values, the spokesperson said in a statement sent to Today. Our franchisee is looking into the situation to ensure this doesn't happen in the future. So an example, albeit a very strong and an outlier type of example of collective discontentment that is being expressed in the workplace. Many entities are having a very tough time finding people. And certainly something that I've talked about in HR episodes in the past here on Fitness Friday is even pre-COVID, the commercial side of the fitness industry had a lot of problems with turnover, with employee attrition. And so I've talked about that on various episodes. I'm going to come back to that later on this year in several weeks. I'm going to talk about during that HR series. But so even pre-pandemic, the fitness industry has had a lot of issues, a lot of challenges. Keeping people, employee retention has been really, really challenging. And so no doubt it's continuing to happen in the industry because, and these are certainly our non-fitness examples, going to talk more about the fitness industry and some other tough decision making next week. But this kind of stuff, while it's, like I said, outlier examples where, people are walking out and posting signs. This next example I'm going to give you is another example of that. But I wanted to highlight during this episode, just the continued importance and the need within the fitness industry to not lose sight, continue to value your people, continue to recognize their worth, their value, what they are bringing to the table. Because now, and I would argue now more than ever, there's a whole lot of options. There's a whole lot of options in terms of employment. And so you want to hang on to your people. I'll come back to this later on in the year. We talk about just how expensive it is, employee turnover, what that does. Okay, and so making some tough decisions could be, and people have had to do that, employers have had to do that, giving raises, giving retention bonuses. There's just various ways that have been, that employees have taken during this time that have really, made a difference for some. But I'm just saying, I want to make the point here that it's not business as usual. I mean, the fitness industry's had a lot of problems with this for a whole lot of years, pre-pandemic. And so the pandemic certainly hasn't made it any better because the fitness industry is certainly an area that's been pressured because you had gym closures for a while and some reopened and then had to close again, then have reopened. And so there's just, depending on what part of the country a person was in, just in terms of their reality, in terms of what was open, what wasn't open. And so it's just so important. It's so important to keep your eyes, and certainly something that brought this to my attention when that was about 18, when 2018. So 2018 to 2019, when I was doing a perception analysis of the fitness industry. So I reviewed a boatload of online reviews, Google and Yelp reviews for fitness entities, major chains to private entities, small studios. And that's one thing, particularly on the commercial side, particularly on the commercial chain side, is what you see is people complaining about turnover within their clubs. And so that is something I just want to highlight that. I want to mention that because now is a time. Some tough decisions certainly have been made during the course of the pandemic, but this is just a friendly reminder to keep your eyes on the prize. Without your people, you really have nothing. And this is true, of course, within the fitness industry and certainly outside of the fitness industry. So I want to highlight another extreme example here. And again, this is not to, remember, I don't traffic in fear, I don't traffic in drama and conspiracy theories and none of that. I traffic in facts. And so I want to point this out to you to just say this kind of stuff is happening. Hopefully it's not happening in fitness facilities in terms of this collective discontentment and people just walking out and posting signs that we all quit and whatever. But it just goes to show you how important employee engagement is, employee satisfaction is, and that is something, there's a lot of things that you can't control, but there's certainly things within your control to hang on to your people, to hang on to your people. And so this is another example by Newsweek. The title of this one is Staff Quit, sign posted on Family Dollar store as employees walk out. So this was written by Saren Morris on June 17th of this year. And it goes on to state, a message that read, staff quit, y'all be easy, was posted on the door of the Family Dollar store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as the former manager claimed the company was very hard to work for. Dodie Byrne, a resident of Pittsburgh's Garfield neighborhood, spotted the sign on Tuesday, according to a KDKA2 CBS Pittsburgh report. Byrne told the media outlet, it's been kind of shaky where it's hit or miss if they're going to be open when you come over because they'll say they don't have enough staffing. The former manager of the Family Dollar store, Heather Berry, was one of the 2 employees who quit. She told KDKA2 CBS Pittsburgh that the district manager expected her to work 105 hours a week as the store was understaffed. When a storm hit Pittsburgh, the store lost power, but Berry was told, hold tight until the power came back on, which it didn't until noon the following day. Berry said the temperature in the store reached about 102 degrees. The manager was intending to wait out her 2 weeks' notice, but decided she couldn't take it anymore and quit. Along with the store's only other employee, Berry said, this company is very hard to work for. Family Dollar told KDKA2 CBS Pittsburgh in a statement, our Garfield neighborhood store is open for business. We are not able to comment on the employment actions or status of individuals out of respect for their privacy. Family Dollar is far from the only business closing stores unexpectedly due to staffing issues. There have been reports of similar no staff signs popping up at restaurants across the U.S. over the past few months. In May, Davita Davidson shared a collection of signs on restaurant windows on Twitter and said, we're literally watching the largest labor movement in modern American history happen in the form of paper signs taped to the windows of fast food and fast casual restaurants. Signs on restaurants including Hardee's, Wendy's, and Chipotle said they were closed due to having no staff. One sign on a Hardee's window said, due to no staff, we are closed. We are hiring, while a Wendy's sign said, we all quit, closed. On Monday, a photo was circulating of a sign that read, we are closed because I am quitting and hate this job, which was posted at a McDonald's drive-thru. In response to the viral Twitter post, social media users shared similar signs they have spotted locally. Restaurants, including some McDonald's outlets, have reported struggling to hire enough staff in recent months. So the end of that article. So that's an example, yet another example of collective employee disengagement, dissatisfaction, discontentment, and employees knowing that they have options to go elsewhere, and that's just what's happening in these extreme cases. And certainly to be balanced as always, as I strive here to do on non-fitness Friday episodes, regular Posi-TIPS, as well as these Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS, is to have balance. These are extreme examples, all right, where people are collectively walking out and leaving and posting signs, but you have eons of people that are just regularly, turning in their 2 weeks notice or quitting on the spot, just that type of stuff that happens in non-pandemic situations. So that's what I'm saying. You have these extreme examples, but you have regular, everyday resignations happening as always. But so it's just the bottom line is, and as this last article alluded to, is that people have options. People are not taking it anymore. Like I said, the Debbie Downer. That point that I was making before I started reading, when that song, we're not going to take it anymore. And so it's so important to recognize that, people have options, treat them accordingly. But even pre-pandemic, it's always important to treat employees well, to make the tough decisions regarding benefits and compensation, and fairly compensated. Don't give people a reason to go elsewhere, is what I'm saying. And so got another example here. And so we've had some tough decisions made in terms of employee hiring, employee retention. And so I want to give you an example from the employer's perspective of some tough decisions that are being made. And so this is actually an Associated Press article that was published in the Detroit News, and it was published by Tom Murphy on August 31st. The title of this article is Walgreens Joins Other Retailers with Starting Pay Boost. Walgreens will hike starting pay to $15 an hour beginning in October as employers across the United States continue boosting wages to attract workers. The drugstore chain said Tuesday that the wage hike will take effect in phases and be completed by November 2022. It will affect workers in the U.S., Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, where the company has about 190,000 hourly employees and 9,100 store locations. Around half of those employees already earn at least $15 an hour, spokesman Phil Caruso said. He added that starting wages vary according to market but are currently not less than $10 per hour. CEO Roz Brewer said in a statement from the company that the pay raise was both the right thing to do and highly important to attracting and keeping workers. The official federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour hasn't been raised since 2009. But many employers, especially in the retail industry, have been offering a $15 wage to try to fill enough jobs to meet surging demand from consumers. Labor advocates have trumpeted $15 an hour as a wage that will finally allow low-paid workers to afford basic necessities and narrow inequality. Walgreens rival CVS Health also said early this month that it was raising minimum pay for all employees earning hourly wages up to at least $15 an hour by next July. So let me take a quick digression here to say, remember, from competitive analysis, I'm always talking about competitive analysis. So we've got rivals here, one saying, okay, well, next year we plan on making this change. And now we've got Walgreens saying, we're making this change starting in October. So you can see that's why it's so important, and I know they are, with all due respect to both entities, particularly CVS Health. But you got to keep your eye on the competitive situation, because now you have this entity. Well, you were planning to make this change in 2022, and now your biggest rival is making that change starting in October. So from a hiring standpoint, so you're looking at potential employee pools. They're pulling from both the same potential employee pools. So now you have a situation where one's going to start paying higher wages starting much sooner than the other one. And so this of course, there's an example here that I'm highlighting, but this kind of stuff happens in all types of industries. And so that's why I'm always harping on the point of doing competitive analysis and evaluating what particularly your rivals are doing, just to keep an eye on it, not to copy, not to imitate, not to do things like that. I mean, these are obviously, very highly profitable, drugstore chains, and so they have the ability to make these changes, but just do right by your people. That's all that is. So now let me get back on track here. Employees there currently make a minimum of $11 an hour. So going back to CVS, let me start over since I digressed during that, just for full context and so you remember. Walgreens rival CVS Health also said early this month that it was raising minimum pay for all employees earning hourly wages up to at least $15 an hour by next July. Employees there currently make a minimum of $11 an hour, but that will climb to $13 next month. Outside retail, one of the country's largest banks, Pittsburgh-based PNC Bank, said Monday it was raising its minimum wage to $18 an hour. Walgreens said Tuesday that it will spend about $450 million over the next 3 years on the starting wage increase. Deerfield, Illinois-based Walgreens, Boots and Alliance Incorporated also runs thousands of drugstores in several other countries, including the Boots chain in the United Kingdom. Company shares, I'm not going to highlight that point. It deals with stock issues, and so I'm not going to talk about that stock market, stock price. But another example here of Walgreens making the tough and very expensive decision to increase starting pay. And so wanted to highlight that, some very tough decisions. And like I always talk about here on Fitness Fridays, you got to do what's best for you. If an entity is struggling financially, and it's tough for you, you can only raise the starting wage by $1 an hour. When you hear this and you think, well, I need what about a $7 an hour increase because I'm only paying my people $10 an hour, say if they're, at the front desk hypothetically. Maybe I need to raise their starting pay to $17, $18 an hour, but financially you can't afford it. And so that's why I always challenge you to be your best based on the realities of your current operations, your operating budget, your operating expenses, your profitability. That is so important. That is so important because there are certainly non-tangibles, yes, you can increase starting pay, but HR, human resources, research, and various entities have shown, and historically too, that pay is important, But there are also non-tangibles, like how do you treat your people? Do you appreciate them? Do you recognize them? Do you value them? All right, there's various things that can be done, yes, financially and non-financially, that can help to retain employees. And so recognize that you treat people well, make it hard for them to go somewhere else. And a potential pay raise, yes, that's very, very important. But if you can't afford it, don't doom your facility by making these kind of tough financial decisions when you simply can't do it. And it's up to you. Perhaps you can even be transparent and say, you know what, hey, I would love to be able to compete with, CVS or Walgreens or some of these other places here locally, just even within my own suburb, because it's heavily retail focused. I'm here in Novi. And so we've got a famous Dave's with this huge burgundy sign that's been there for weeks. On the side of it, you're entering Novi Town Center, for the local people who know, in front of that famous Dave's, because it's right there off of Novi Road. So you can see that this massive sign saying starting bonus of $1,000. And then there's some fine print, of course, that you can't read till you get up close to it, or perhaps go to their website to apply. But think about that, okay? You got a Wendy's not too far away from that, starting pay $16 an hour. And so people have options, even within clubs. People have options. They can leave a role and go somewhere else, is what I'm saying, with outside of the fitness industry. Certainly money is the most important motivating factor, but it isn't always. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And so the last article I want to point out here before closing out is a CNBC article entitled "Employers Offer Perks from College Tuition to Retirement Benefits to Attract Workers." Now, this was published on August 10th. Published also by Carmen Reinecke. And so I'm going to highlight this and close this episode out. So businesses are getting creative in their efforts to attract and retain workers amid a labor shortage caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Ray Bales, president of a Seniors Helping Seniors franchise in Knoxville, Tennessee, implemented a special bonus program to entice caretakers back into the workplace. In addition to raising hourly wages and offering a $150 signing bonus, the business donates $50 to a local charity supporting Alzheimer's research in the name of the employee. It's a whole new way that caregivers are able to give, said Bales. During the pandemic, the business, which pairs elderly clients who need in-home care and companionship with seniors who are still interested in working, had to lay off its entire workforce. But now it's busier than ever. After adding the sinus bonus plus donation, Bales got 12 applications in a week and hired 2 new caregivers. Still, he needs to fill 30 to 40 jobs. Hopefully, a lot of these applications we will go ahead with and we'll be back to work, he said. We have a long list of folks that are waiting for help, and that's the thing that just breaks my heart. The coronavirus pandemic left millions unemployed over the last year and resulted in additional benefits from states and the federal government for those out of work, including extra money every week. Now, while hires picked up 6.7 million in June, job postings are also higher than ever. Job openings were 10.1 million in June, according to the Labor Department. That may outpace the number of people actively looking for work. The July jobs report showed that there are some 8.7 million unemployed looking for jobs. Economists point to a few reasons why some businesses, and especially those that offer lower wages and require face-to-face interaction, may be struggling to find workers. First, the threat of illness is still present, given the rise of the Delta variant. Some workers, mostly mothers, may be unable to find childcare and so elect to stay at home. Also, some say the extra unemployment benefits are a disincentive for people to go back to work, though many states have cut off the additional money and the federal program will end in September. This has culminated in an environment where workers have more power than ever before the pandemic. Companies are getting extra creative with perks that benefit employees. Job postings on Indeed, an employment website, shows hiring incentives doubled from July 2020 to July 2021, and searches for jobs offering incentives increased 134%. The big picture is that employers right now are really trying to figure out how to attract workers, because there are still challenges, said Ann Elizabeth Conkle, an economist at Indeed. Many give workers a financial boost. Some restaurants are now offering 401k accounts or profit sharing to their employees, which gives workers a boost in saving for retirement and helps ensure they will stick around. Adam Bergman, a partner at IRA Financial Group, said that before this year, he'd seen maybe one or two restaurants looking to offer retirement plans. Now, the group is getting multiple phone calls each week from restaurants looking to set up plans. They're trying to encourage people to stay, he said, adding that many of the clients they've recently had sign on structured plans so that employees working on the last day of the year automatically get a 5% match. Peter Volthe, owner and executive chef of Red South Beach, a steakhouse in Miami Beach, Florida, has offered 401k plans and health insurance to his employees, including wait staff and kitchen staff, for years. A 401k makes all the sense in the world, he said. It's minimal cost to me. We do a match up to a certain percent. We have basically 90% of the staff on it, and they loved it. Though his restaurant was shut down during the pandemic, about 90% of the former staff came back, he said. Still, he's had considerable trouble finding new workers to fill in the gaps. It's been impossible to hire, he said, adding that it took him 7 months to get to full staff after reopening in January. He boosted wages across the board just to get people in the door. He's also considering increasing the 401k match and implementing a profit-sharing plan, he said. Even larger corporations are now offering creative perks. Target and Walmart recently announced tuition reimbursement programs to help employees with the cost of higher education. Other employers such as Best Buy, Amazon, and Facebook offer elder and child care benefits. Wages are also rising and signing bonuses are becoming more prevalent in food services and retail. Papa John's, McDonald's, and Chipotle are among restaurants that are boosting pay and giving out signing bonuses. Of course, it is still too early to see what will stick in the labor market and what will get people back to work, according to Catherine A. Edwards, an economist at the RAND Group. There's still progress to be made for workers, especially those in lower paying jobs. A nominal wage increase or hiring bonus is not the same thing as having a stable and safe job, she said, adding that further benefits such as paid sick leave would give people even more security to go back to work. And ultimately, the greatest unknown impacting the labor market still hangs in the balance, she said. What is true now was true in March of last year, she said. The economy will not recover until the pandemic is contained. And so that's it, folks. That's it for this episode, just highlighting the challenges that we are all aware exist in the marketplace these days, and certainly in the fitness industry as well. And so just wanted to leave you with this friendly reminder. This whole episode's a friendly reminder, just to keep your eye on your people. I know it's hard. I know it's tough. It's not easy to find people. It's been a challenge keeping people. And so, and then as I was alluding to earlier in this episode with the fitness industry, it's always been a challenge because this is a type of industry where, as I've stated on a number of marketing episodes, and even certainly in the sales episodes earlier this year, the number one thing, the first thing that any fitness industry is promoting is, I don't care where it is in the world, is fitness. So there's a lot that comes around it. Before you're promoting a sales or account manager is promoting his or her gym, the first thing they're promoting is fitness. So there's a whole lot around that in terms of, this industry versus other type of industries, because it's, are you here because you're passionate about fitness? Because yes, during these tough times for the fitness industry, where gyms were closed for months, and it's been more of a challenge of getting people back inside, even though there's been some positive movement in that area, a lot of, push towards home-based fitness. But as I pointed out last week, there's still the same opportunity that has always existed in terms of getting the people that are not, the sedentary people, getting people active, getting people fit, getting people healthier and well is still there, because that Center for Disease Control statistic they release every year, and the numbers are not getting better. All right, and I just have a feeling that even with the pandemic, these numbers are probably going to get worse, but 2/3 of adults in this country are either overweight or obese. So that opportunity for there in terms of growth in that area, positively impacting people's lives within the framework of fitness is certainly still there. It is still there. But it's more of a challenge because when times are tough, when foot traffic, we're going to talk about this next week, certainly, when foot traffic is down, organic foot traffic is down, and budgets, advertising, marketing budgets, things like that are tight, or certainly tighter because revenues decreased last year as a result of the closures. So what do? That puts a pressure, that has put a unprecedented amount of pressure on the industry in terms of, people like, why are you here? Do you want to work in fitness? Is this part of your purpose, part of your passion, or is it a paycheck? And so when times are tough, in any type of situation, but certainly in fitness, tough times, adversity, struggles, obstacles, and hardships tend to pressure us and test our motives. Our motives, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Is it, because when times get tough, relationally, in terms of employment and anything else, that's when the test comes. Like, am I committed to this? Is this where I want to be? Is this where I want to do? And you have people making the tough decisions to essentially say, I'm out. And I pointed some of those out in this early part of this episode. And so from the employer's standpoint, just recognize there are things that you can control. And so that's just part of kind of the natural cycles of life. During adversity, during seasons of challenge, during challenging seasons, people are going to say, is this what I want to do? Do I really want to be here? I hate working here. This job is awful. Or I want to be somewhere else. Or I always wanted to do this. Or I only took this job because I only wanted to pay the bills. That is true in any industry. And the challenge now that you've got things such as, and I'm a former employee, I have no problem admitting, before college in Louisiana, I worked at Burger King. And I look at that now, and I look at some of these starting wages for Burger King and other fast food, and I'm thinking like, wow, I just would have never thought I would have seen some of the starting wages, but just again the pressures that have been put on the employee, the labor market have caused that. And so, folks, that is all I have for you today. We're going to continue this conversation looking at tough decisions, having the confidence to make the tough decisions. Next week, we'll look at some very specific fitness entities and some of the tough decisions that have been made. And I cannot wait. But just until then, remember, keep an eye on your people. Keep an eye on your people. Keep an eye on your people. So stay tuned for this continued series on confidence next week. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your leadership, fitness, success, and people. Make it a great day.